you planning a trip to South Korea, but you're just trying to figure out how should I budget this? Well, let's get into it. So here's my really quick answer. That way you get all the information in the first couple seconds of this video. My flight to South Korea was $2,500. The average hotel price / Airbnb price per night was $100. The average amount of money I spent every day on food and drink was $30. And then I tried to have at least $700 of extra spending money to help cover, the Wi-Fi pocket, daily travel like the KTX, but also like the public transportation, and then for souvenirs. And out of that $700, I only ended up spending like almost $300 of it. So I didn't even use all that extra spending money I saved for my last trip. But that is my really quick rundown. Now let's actually break it down and go over everything and ways you guys can save money. So I live in Florida in a very small town, and I'm very far away from any international airport. So for me, going to South Korea was definitely on the more expensive side. My first time going to South Korea, it was $3,000 and a little bit over 24 hours of travel just because of the layovers. My second time that we're planning for, I'm going to Korea again in about 2 months. My flight ticket for that was $2,500. Now, one thing to keep in mind about this flight is I'm going from Florida to San Francisco. There is a layover. Then San Francisco to Japan. We're spending 3 full days in Japan and then going over to South Korea and spending the following 10 days in South Korea. So it will be really exciting, but it's not like a direct flight to South Korea. The cheapest flights we did see were right around like 1,700-ish. But keep in mind, where you live, your proximity to an international airport and your proximity to South Korea will all play a role in how expensive your flight will be. Obviously, if you live in like California or Canada, the side of Canada closer to South Korea, or even if you live in Japan or wherever, your distance to South Korea will definitely play a huge impact on the price. So everybody's ticket price will be a little different, but me coming from Florida, right between 2,500 to 3,000. Now, ways to reduce the ticket price. Be very, very flexible. There's a website I love called Skyscanner, and the cool thing about it is you can put in where you're at and where you want to be, and then you can say your dates are flexible, and it will literally show you the cheapest time to go. Now, we also really want to go during cherry blossom season, but we also don't want to go when it's super busy. We don't want to go when it's super rainy. So when looking at those cheaper ticket prices, we do have to keep that in mind, because obviously those cheaper flights are during down season when it's really rainy or really humid, or monsoon season, or really, really hot or really, really cold. So we try to go like right between that we were getting the season we want and the experience we want, but also saving some money. So my first time I went was April, and that was like right after cherry blossoms. We only got to see like one cherry blossom tree. That was all that was left. But it was very, very empty. Like all of the things we did felt very, very empty. The next thing I want to talk about is daily food budget. So we went to a lot of mom and pops, a lot of casual dining, a lot of street food places. And the average price per meal was between $3 to $6. And that was for very casual dining. Now, we did do one really, really nice Korean barbecue restaurant, and that was $20 per person. But I would say the average budget you should aim for per day, per person for food is $30 a day. Now, that was my budget, and that's including food and drink. I love cafes. So pretty much I would spend like maybe $3 to $5 for breakfast. Then I would get my coffee, which was around like $2 to $3. And then sometimes I would skip lunch. And then for dinner, my dinner would be like around $7 or $8. And then, of course, with drinks. And when I say drinks, I'm not talking about alcoholic beverages. I don't drink alcohol. But like I'm talking about like water bottles, coffee, things like that type of drinks. Now, if you're having alcohol, you may want to raise your budget a little bit, but still Alcohol prices over there, because I did take a look, do seem a lot cheaper than here in the States. But obviously if you're drinking, you may want to include a special drinking budget, because I know that can really add up. I definitely recommend, like, if you are going on a super tight budget, check out the CU store or the different convenience stores. They have like pre-made meals that are actually really good. I love them. I had them a lot for breakfast because in Korea, Koreans don't really do breakfast, so a lot of the cafes and breakfast places open very late. Even Starbucks, like Starbucks that we're used to, my local Starbucks opens at 5 a.m. And in Korea, it doesn't open till like 8 or 9. Now, I guess that's still early, but when you're on a time difference, waking up at 4 or 5, you're like, okay, where's my 4 or 5 a.m. coffee shops? They don't have that. So I always went to the CU store. You'll see it. It's called Nice to See You, but it's just called the CU store. They have coffee, tons of pre-packed meals, snacks, things like that. And I loved going there. And that's a really good way to budget. If you want something really cheap, but really yummy and simple, you can go there. The next thing I want to talk about is accommodations. So you have the option of doing hotels or Airbnbs. Hotels are more expensive, but hear me out. I love doing a hotel the day I land and the day I leave. A lot of the hotels we were looking into had their own special shuttle like things or operations to get you from the hotel to the airport and to the airport to the hotel. So that was really nice. You don't have to worry about all your luggage on public transportation or, you know, trying to deal with taxis. We just really enjoyed going through the hotel because the hotel had their free shuttle service and they picked you up. We got right to the hotel and then it just made it like worry free. So that's really nice. When you first land in a new country, you just don't want to be stressed out of how am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to get around? So it's just nice that a lot of the hotels have the free shuttles. Every other night we're staying in a Airbnb though, because Airbnbs are a lot cheaper. You can see Airbnbs as cheap as $20 US. But they're probably $20 US for a reason, so we didn't do that option. Our average Airbnb price is right between like $80 to $100, and the average hotel price is right around like $100. So it just depends on what you like. If you like that hotel feeling, you can totally do it. But for like, we're going to Busan, we want to be right on the coast. A lot of the hotels right there were very expensive. And for the same view, we could get an Airbnb for like half the price and, you know, it's right there. And it looked really cute. I love how Airbnbs feel so homey and I love the style of it. And like, you know, just the freedom of having like the kitchen and you can set it all up however you want and cook if you need to. The next thing I want to talk about is transportation costs. So I would say budget at least $3 to $6 a day for the public transportation, and you will have to get a T-Money card or you can get a CU card if you're planning to go to the CU convenience store a lot. But yeah, plan between like $3 to $6 a day. Now, if you're traveling far distances in Korea, you will have to do probably like a KTX train. I would budget between like $40 to $60 for the train one way. So like if you're going from Seoul to Daegu or Daegu to Busan, like if you're going big distances, you will have to take those trains and they are a little more expensive, but keep in mind you're going to save a lot of time using the trains and you're going a very far distance. So if you're planning on visiting multiple cities, you will definitely do a KTX train. The next thing I'll talk about is internet access. Highly recommend having some form of internet over there. I use the Naver Maps for the subway system over there and the public transit. It is so easy to use Naver Maps. You do need internet though. And it was nice having internet for translating different things. So I do recommend having internet because it will be a lifesaver, and a lot of the tickets too are online tickets, like for certain venues and certain activities, you'll need that online ticket. So I highly recommend getting a pocket Wi-Fi or eSIM. The rented pocket Wi-Fi was between $3 to $5 a day. And the longer you're having it, the cheaper that daily rate is. And obviously there's all sorts of different pocket Wi-Fis you can get that have different amounts of Wi-Fi. You can pick it up at the airport or you can get a online digital eSIM, which that's another option. But try to budget at least $3 to $5 a day just for that internet access. And the very last thing I want to talk about is all the extras, like the activities, the souvenirs, hanbok rentals in order to go into all the palaces for free, the Seoul Tower, temples, cafe stops, outdoor spots, things like that. Like if you're thinking of doing any activities, which I'm sure you will, and if you're thinking about getting souvenirs or skincare, my first time going to Korea, I budgeted a extra $700 just for that, like for activities, extras, souvenirs, things like that. And I ended up only spending right around $300 of that. But I recommend at least saving $200 to $300 for those extra activities. Now, if you know you want to buy like tons of skincare, tons of makeup, things like that, then obviously bring more. But just for like all the activities and everything, I would say try to save at least between $200 to $300 extra if that's in your budget. So here's the total budget overview. So the bottom line for a 2-week trip, that's what I did, would be around $5,000 I would save. Keep in mind, $2,500 of that was just on the flight. So it's almost half the budget. If you're flying anywhere closer, keep in mind, again, it'll be so much cheaper. But apart from your flight ticket, try to save at least $2,500, and that will cover like hotels, food, transportation, Wi-Fi, activities, plus wiggle room in case you randomly want or need to spend extra. But that is everything I spent when in South Korea, and hopefully that gives you a good idea of how you want to budget and how much you should budget. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll have many more Korea-related videos coming out soon. But I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you. Bye.